Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome back to our weekly updates. And for now, they actually will be on time. I finally got back down to Virginia, and uh, anyway, let's go into it. So I've updated it as best as I can. I'm not going to update these because I still want to make sure that my expectations that the markets are more stable now is going to stay correct. And also, again, this is based off of the average margin of victory of an incumbent, so there's that. It's no longer subjective, it is objective, so yay. Anyway, so because of the whole government shutdown thing, Trump's approval rating did take a healthy amount of a nosedive. His average for this month is probably right at 40 or 41%. Again, this is likely voter and registered voter only, so we're not including polls of all adults. And remember, this also factors in the 2018 average. So we're just under 43% and just above 54% for disapproval. So what does that mean? Well, factored in with everything else that I'm including in the model, this shows a Democratic win of more than 5%. And if we go back up and look at the first map I have here, after I cover the presidential stuff, I'll go to the Senate, and then we can actually look at the governor's races. And they also added tilts for their presidential map. So we're actually including those, and there's only one state in that category. And for the models forecast, which is this one, which is this map, tilt is going to mean any state within 1%. 1% or less. So that would be Iowa. Any state 5% or less is going to be categorized as a lean, say Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona. These I'm just doing my best to factor those in. And yeah, this is clearly showing that Trump would get slaughtered. 10% or less is going to be a likely, which is this color and this color. And anything 10%, anything above 10% is going to be in the darkest shade. Yeah. So this definitely shows that Iowa, Ohio, and this area still actually really like Trump. But his approval rating has taken a massive dive during the shutdown, and that is to be expected. However, we're already starting to see it climb back up, so I don't think it'll be anything that lasts too long. I think it'll be fully recovered by March, provided the government doesn't shut down again, which is surprisingly likely, but I'm not sure how much the shutdown is actually going to affect his re-election prospect. So that's why my personal forecast here looks like how it does. And this is slightly different because for my forecasts, the shading is more about my confidence level. So if it's the darkest shade, I have zero reservations about calling a state for a person this far out. Same thing, for either Trump or the Democrats. Likely simply means I'm a little less confident. I actually think it's probably going to be competitive, but I also I'm confident enough to say that one side has a solid advantage there. Leans means a candidate has an advantage, but don't read too much into it. It's going to be hotly, hotly, hotly contested. And tilt is what I use to describe a true toss-up, but I don't do maps with no toss-up, so I call every state. And these are states that really could go either way. I just think that one side has just enough more. Again, they win 51 times out of 100 rather than anything more than that. So that's why it is like this. I'm expecting regression towards mean. I'm expecting everything to be fairly normal for the Trump era. And I think this is a reasonable map for that assumption. And the reason I'm making that assumption is because that is historically a good assumption to make. And I feel making an assumption that it doesn't regress to the mean is too much in favor of the Democrats. But I also think that saying that he's going to rebound and then go above his previous numbers is not a good decision because that is too biased towards Trump. So I think that's reasonable. And of course, I think the economy is also going to wind up doing a little bit better, and then some. We might reach some decent numbers. So these states could change again, but for right now, I'm trying to just work on being as unbiased as possible. And I think Trump is I think it's fair to say that he has an advantage. On Friday, we're going to talk about incumbents in depth and kind of look at what we can learn from each incumbent who lost. And we're going to do a small series on that on Fridays. So yeah. Let's move on to the Senate election. And yeah, my thoughts haven't really changed on this. I don't think any state is going to reject in the Senate the candidate of the party who wins the presidential level. So I think this is fair. Maine is slightly different because Suzanne Collins is reasonably popular, but she's going to have to deal with a large faction who don't exactly like her and thought her Kavanaugh vote was a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Michigan could be interesting if, say, John James runs, but that's a totally different thing. And Cory Gardner, I really don't think he's going to keep his seat. Yeah, I was about to say, in Purdue and Georgia, I don't really see him being too vulnerable. Too. So going to the governor's map, I'm really only going to focus on it's funny. So in 2019, we've got 3: Kentucky, Louisiana, and Mississippi. I think Bell Edwards is going to win. He's popular. He's a good fit for the state, and he isn't vulnerable where a Democrat normally would be in Louisiana. And I really don't think Mississippi or Kentucky are actually all that vulnerable. The pundits will say they are, but the reality is they really aren't. We'll talk about the rest of them. We'll talk about 2020 when that gets here, but for right now, I don't have reservations about calling these states the way I am. Again, this is confidence-based, and I just don't have confidence that Kentucky or Mississippi or Louisiana are going to flip. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye.